Hello YouTube, I'm Queen Tasha and that's my Purple Palace. If you want to see inside her, make sure you check out my first video, which is the renovation and tour video. In today's video, I'm going to answer some of my most frequently asked questions about RV life. So, let's get into it. So the first question is, when did I start RV life? So I bought my first RV in May of 2018, and that was the Colorful Castle. That was my first RV. It was a 34-foot 1993 Winnebago Adventurer on a Ford F-150 chassis. I bought the Colorful Castle for $5,500, and I started renovation on her in May, and then I started living in her full-time in July of 2018, and then I lived in her for about a year, until about June, July 2019, and I took a break from RV life, which gave me the opportunity to sell her and buy the Purple Palace. I've been living in her now I bought her in September, fixed her up, and in November I headed down to Florida, so it's April 2020 now, and I've been living in her for about 6 months, and I love it. So total, it's been about 2 years of RV life. So what made me want to live in an RV full-time? So first, I have to preface by saying that I realized some time ago that I am just a natural born nomadic person. I've lived in 4 different states as an adult, and I've never re-signed a lease. I've always moved, and if you know anything about moving, you know that that process sucks. It's really expensive, it's very time consuming, and at the end, you're just so glad that it's over until the next time. So this life just makes sense for me in general, but I didn't know that initially. So what really got me started into getting into living an alternative lifestyle was the tiny house movement. I mean, it's such a huge new movement that happened, and I discovered it when I was living in Houston. And when I was living in Houston, I actually was living in probably one of the biggest apartments that I've ever lived in by myself, and I thought that I made it. Like, I was like, yes, I have this nice ass apartment, and I bought a new car, and I was just like, yes, I'm living the dream. And midway through that, I was like, I don't even really like Houston like that. And I was already planning on going to Florida, and I was in that transitional time is when I discovered the tiny house movement. And at first, I thought it was really cute, but I was like, there's no way I could do that. I have way too many shoes. And then as I started watching it and seeing how they were doing it and why people were doing it and how they were organizing for space to be able to fit the things that people wanted to bring, I was just like, wow, I can't believe people are doing this. This is really awesome, and I think that I could do it. And when I really made my mind up that I was like, yeah, I could definitely do this, I was already preparing to move from Houston to Florida, and I was like, let me just go ahead and start downsizing now. Let me prepare my mind and my space and my things for when I actually do this. And I had no idea when I was going to be able to afford this lifestyle or whatever. I just knew that I wanted it, and so I started downsizing. I got rid of like half of my stuff before I moved to Florida, and when I got here, at first I lived in an apartment with a roommate, and then I moved into my first little tiny house. And it was like a little cottage. If you're in the Florida, Tampa Bay area, St. Pete area, you know about the alley houses. It's basically like a renovated garage that's in the alley of like the main house, and they're usually run between 300 and 500 square feet. Mine was about a little over 300 square feet, and it was the cutest little studio cottage apartment. It was just a little singular house that I had by myself, and I loved that place. And that really was the first step of me going tiny, is living in a tiny space. I had downsized again and was able to make that space work, and I absolutely love that place. And I also went to the Tiny House Festival in St. Augustine, the Florida Tiny House Festival in St. Augustine, when I first got to Florida. And that's what really opened my eyes up to more than just tiny houses. At first I was like, yep, I'm doing a tiny house. I don't know how I'm gonna afford all of that. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it myself or what, but that's what I want. That was the only thing that was really on my radar because I just thought it was so cute and it was so creative, and I love doing stuff like that. Home renovation, home organizing, all that stuff is like my jam. And so when I went to the tiny house festival, yes, of course, I stood in the line to get into all the tiny houses. And then I discovered schoolies, that people took old school buses and like tour buses and stuff like that and renovated them. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, that makes more sense. I'll probably do a schoolie because I want it to be able to move without having the second car. And then there was a little section for people who just had upgraded and renovated RVs. So when I got back, I just looked on like eBay and like Craigslist for used RVs, and what do you know, people are selling these things for really cheap. So yeah, that's basically what got me into the whole life, was just like the whole tiny house movement, the whole alternative living movement, and I'm fascinated by things that are different. So that's basically how that happened. So another big question that I get is, how much did I pay for her? So the first RV that I bought, which was the Colorful Castle, she was $5,500, and then I got some new tires put on her, so it ended up being $6,170. Put about maybe $5,000-ish into that. Included the renovation, insurance and registration. I paid somebody to help me do the demo and do some of the painting and stuff like that. So it ended up being, I think when I totaled it all up, like $9,600 total for that first renovation, or first purchase and renovation. I sold the Colorful Castle. I sold her for $5,500, and so that was my budget for the Purple Palace. And I bought the Purple Palace for $2,800. I probably so far have put in maybe $4,000-ish, I don't know, something like that. And I still plan to do more. I want to put solar. There's a couple other little mechanical things that I want to do. She's an older RV. She needs more love and care, and she also needs more upgrades and makeovers, which I love to do. So that's basically how much I paid for her. I got the money originally from a settlement from an accident that I got in Houston. And so when I got that money, I already had knew what I was going to spend it on before I even got it. Before I even knew how much I was going to get, I knew that I was going to buy an RV. So I used that for that, and then when I sold the Colorful Castle, I used that money to buy this. The next question is, how often do I travel? So far since I have lived this RV life full time, I have been kind of like traveling slow. Really? Wildlife, right? They're not social distancing. So I came inside because the wildlife would not be quiet and the mosquitoes are not social distancing. So back to the frequently asked questions. The next question is, how often do I travel? So since I started RV life, I have been traveling slow, and traveling for convenience, I guess. At first it was chasing money, and then chilling, and then a combination of both. So I started in Florida, and then Prince. Prince wants to be in the video. Come on. You want? So when I left Florida, I headed to Atlanta, Georgia. I lived in Atlanta on and off for 7 years, and I had a friend up there who was starting a truck driving company, or had already started a truck driving company, and wanted me to come drive for them. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that, no problem. And friends, go play. Go play. Go play with your toys. Hold on. Discovered Amazon had a program, and so that brought me from Atlanta to Indiana. Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana all meet in one place. and so I was in that area. And then after that, I took about a month and a half-ish off and went and stayed with family in North Carolina with my sister and brother. And from there, I went back on the road for a bit, and then I landed in Florida for the winter. And I get it. I get why people come here. Snow and cold is sad, and sunny and warm is happy. So people come here. And then from here, I left to escape the rainy hurricane season and went to Maryland. I took a break from RV life and stayed with my mom for a little bit while I was in the process of selling my last RV. And now I am back in Florida after being there. And I got down here in November for my second snowbird season, and it's been great. I got here in November, it is April, and I plan to leave to hit the road soon, so I do plan on traveling more quickly, but so far I've been traveling slow and chasing money. So the next question is, what have I learned about RV life so far? Well, the first thing is that you're still gonna learn things the hard way, no matter how much research you do on YouTube, watching different people's videos of their life. You're gonna have your own unique experience, and even when you see it on YouTube, you're still gonna have to figure it out, and you might still figure it out the hard way. And I would say a good 70 to almost 80% of stuff in the RV, this RV and the last RV, I've done on my own, or with like assistance, but like I did on my own. Like I didn't hire anybody to help me. And I think that's an important skill for you to just get your hands dirty. There's plenty of resources out there. YouTube is free. There's plenty of people that are putting videos about what they do and how they fix and do maintenance on their RV. I'll have a couple videos on that soon because I have taped myself doing a couple things, and it's just important to know how to know your rig. So also, living tiny is pretty easy for me. Like when I think about how far I used to walk to the fridge to get snacks, and now it's like right outside my bedroom door. It's such a blessing. Like living tiny is really easy for me, and I realized that as I started downsizing and getting rid of stuff and then living in smaller spaces, that I adjusted really well. Some people have a hard time. Maybe it was easier for me because I don't have another person here, but I also learned that this lifestyle is super freeing for me. I can't even tell you. So after I did paying for campgrounds and stuff, which I still do here and there when I want to, but I try my best to find free places to park, and I can't tell you how freeing it is to not have to pay rent, to not even have to think about it. Like in the situations that I have set up over the last year and a half, I haven't had to pay rent, and that in itself, so nice, so nice. So it's a very freeing lifestyle. So I also learned that RV life has its own set of challenges. If you're looking to get into this lifestyle, don't come here thinking it's just gonna be like hippie fun time. Like there's its own set of challenges, its own set of downsides to this life. Also, what I've learned is that sometimes you need a break from RV life. Like when I went to Maryland, because I was escaping rainy season and hurricane season down here in Florida, and it just made more sense for me to stay in my mom's house, I realized that I needed that little break from, just the little things that you have to worry about in RV life. And sometimes people do that by checking into a hotel, or going to stay with some friends for a little bit, or house sitting. And there's different ways to take a break from moving, and I think that that's okay. And that's one thing that I had to learn. Like, yes, I chose this life, but I also grew up in a different life. This isn't all I've ever known. So the next question is, what do I enjoy about RV life? There's so many things, but I'm just gonna cut and dry. The first thing I already mentioned in the last question, which is the freedom. I have the freedom to go wherever I want to go, and I have my whole house with me. I love like that I have everything I need with me at all times. It's so freaking awesome. Like, I enjoy that it makes me really conscious of my carbon footprint and all the things that go along with that, which is like your waste and your consumption and being in touch with nature. Because all of those things affect this lifestyle, goes along with my beliefs and values and in sustainability. And so this also makes sense, since this lifestyle makes sense for that as well, because I'm Captain Planet over here as best as I can, and I'm trying to save the planet. And lastly, obviously, travel. I love to travel. When I was in my early 20s, I went and worked on a cruise ship, Norwegian Cruise Line, and got to see so many parts of the world that I would not have been able to see without doing that. And that opened my eyes up for my love and passion of travel. So that brings me to the next question, which is, what do you not like about RV life? Next thing is bugs and critters. You definitely see bugs and critters way more often when you're living in an RV. And when I first got this RV, there was so many stink bugs in it. There was no roaches, which was good. It was just a lot of stink bugs and spiders. And the most common insect that you see doing RV life is ants. Ants want to live in your RV with you, and finding that queen. Oh my gosh. But there's some good stuff out there, and maybe I'll do a video on what I have used in the past. And so that's one downside of RV life, is you're gonna have it. You gotta get used to seeing bugs. The other thing would be when it rains, you hear it. You hear it way much more than you do in a house, and it affects what you got going on. If you're talking on the phone, trying to make a video, or trying to watch TV, which is my biggest thing. Like, when you turn I can turn my TV up all the way, and if it's raining hard outside, I might as well just turn the TV off. I can't hear it at all. So that's a time where you read or sleep or meditate. But roof maintenance is another thing that I don't enjoy. The other thing, temperature control. Temperature control is really hard to maintain in an RV, and if you want to grow plants or not sweat profusely or not freeze to death, you have to be really in tune with nature. So I switched locations to the bedroom because it was getting a little warm right there. So I'm going to answer these last questions in the bedroom. So the next question is, how long do I plan to live this life? So I don't think that I'll ever not be nomadic. Like, it's just a part of who I am, and I didn't realize that that's a part of who I was until like the last couple years, like just reflecting on the fact that I've never re-signed a lease. I've always moved. I've lived in several different states. I love traveling. It's just a part of who I am, and so I always plan to be nomadic. Living RV life will probably be another 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know how long it's going to take me to travel around and see all the things that I want to see. I do want to do another project, which would be like a bus or something like that. I do plan on being a road warrior for a couple more years. When I do decide to have a home base or nest, it will still be some type of alternative lifestyle, alternative living dwelling. But after RV life, I do want to try boat life, and that's definitely my next step. I don't want to do that without a partner or without knowing anything about boats. I didn't know anything about RVs until I bought an RV, but I definitely think I want to know some things about a boat before I get on a boat. But I always plan to be nomadic, and so that's not going to stop. But as far as RV life, who knows how long this will last, but it's definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. So we have come to the last frequently asked question that I get or that I was curious about when I was starting RV life, which is, how do you afford this lifestyle? What do you do for money to afford this lifestyle? For me, I'm still working through that magic of finding the right different income sources that will allow me to move to the next level of this lifestyle and traveling and things. But thus far, so I left a corporate job to go work for my friend's trucking company, and I did that for a while. That provided me with being able to stay at nice RV parks, food, gas, and just hanging out and chilling in those different places in Atlanta. Then I discovered the work camping thing, and I discovered it through a program that Amazon had. There for 6 weeks, and that was my contract. Their main season is during that Thanksgiving, Christmas season. I just used that money, some money I made on the road, some tax return money that I had, and I just lived off of that for a little bit. I took like a month and a half or 2 off to just live off of that, and that was awesome. Like, I didn't have to work. I was still working and doing things and improving myself and trying to figure out this whole digital nomad thing, but it allowed me to not have to worry about an income. But that dwindles. So living off savings, or saving up a bunch of money real quick and then living off of that's another way to do it. That's one way that I did it. I know people that will work for 6 months and then take 6 months off, or work for 3 months and then go travel for 3 months and just live off of the savings. Like, they're not working during the time that they're traveling. Next thing that I did was temp work. When I was up in Maryland, I went back to some temp agencies that I've worked for and just did temp work. I also did gig work, like Postmates. I did Lyft while I was here in Florida. I did Postmates, I did Shipped. All those little gig economy things are easy when you're in one place. But ultimately, I am trying to be a digital nomad, which is, YouTube is one of those things. So if you're watching right now, thank you so much. And I have a podcast. I am becoming an online teacher, and with VIP Kids, and also just trying to do a couple of my own things. I've always been an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, or a serial self-employer. I love working for myself. So that's where I'm at in my journey right now, which is transitioning to relying on an income from someone else and relying on income that I make myself. So that's where I'm at, and that's how I make money. But you can do it in so many different ways. There's so many different ways to do it. So don't think that whatever your circumstances right now, that you can't figure out how to make it in this lifestyle. So that's all the questions that I have. Those are the most frequently asked questions that I get when I meet people and they learn that I live in an RV. And so I figured I'd just answer those on a video. If you have more questions for me, I will be happy to answer as many as I can. Just drop your question down in the comments below. And I will either answer them in the comments, or if there's enough of the same question, I'll just do another one of these Q&A videos and tell you what's going on. But if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and share with your friends so that the YouTube algorithm will show it to everyone. That's all I have. I'm Queen Tasha in the Purple Palace.